Okay, hi, it's Linda back again. I don't know if you're able to bear with me this morning. I was supposed to be going live with Mike Coluzzi, and it's completely my fault. I completely messed up by doing things at the wrong time. Anyway, I've just sent him an invitation, so I am hoping that he will be able to join us in just a few moments. And it's Friday, and I mess up just like anybody else, and it's okay. Let's see if Mike gets the link. And can join us. And I apologize that you have to be sitting here watching me do this. Right. Well, happy Friday. I was just chatting with Mike because he did show up. He was showing up at the right time, or what he thought was the right time, and it was my error. And then it wouldn't let us go live, so I've had to rejiggle things about and set it up again and send him another link. So I'm making a fine mess of things this morning when it comes to this live stream. So let's see. Hopefully Mike will be able to join us, because I don't want you to just have to sit and listen to me waffle on for longer than is necessary. And then also sometimes, sometimes things are just not meant to happen. But and I think this is why people do recorded podcasts and don't do live streams as much. So what can I talk about while I'm waiting for Mike? Poor Mike. I mean, he's such a professional, and I am really messing him about today, which I'm not happy about. Well, it might just be one of those days where it's not going to work. Well, we could do some deep breathing exercises, couldn't we? Here we are. There you are. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Hello. I am so sorry for messing you about this morning. I was just explaining to everyone how the beauty of doing live streams.
No problems.
But you are the complete professional, and I thank you for bearing with me this morning as I go through all my shenanigans.
Not a
anyway,
problem. I totally get it.
Welcome to Mike Coluzzi. It's such a pleasure to be talking with you today. I am Linda Binns, the breakthrough energy expert, and you can see my energy is all off today, but I'm really happy to be speaking with Mike. He's a very inspiring person, which is why I wanted to have this conversation. Mike is a lawyer and a business coach, business mentor. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mike, because they've heard enough from me, and let you introduce yourself and explain what it is that you do.
Well, number one, thanks for having me, and thank you for just being persistent to get this live stream up and running. I understand how, technical challenges can be, one that tests us all. So good job. And so thanks again for having me. So yeah, primarily, what I like to do is typically like to work with service-based professionals, business owners, and entrepreneurs who are either going through some type of transition, career transition, whether it be voluntary or involuntary, so they could do it really in an empowered and a to gain the outcome that they're looking for. Because it's
Now we
never one that's without overwhelm and frustration and a little bit of anxiety and fear. And if you have someone who can guide you through, who's been through the process, that's really is what's the most valuable way to, again, assess, so that they could if I what I like to do is it's really simple. I offer a get to know you call, which is free. It's always free because it's really important to see if there's synergy. So people could just connect with me at mike@mikecoluzzi.com. That's Mike at MikeColuzzi .com, and just say, hey, listen to you on Linda's show. Would love to talk to you about some things I'm going through, and walk them through. And I typically will spend 25 minutes to half hour to help them, and then we could see if there's a synergy that I can help them on a more long-term basis.
absolutely. And how did you make the transition from attorney to business coach? What was your thinking? What drove you to do
Right.
that? Just curious.
That's a great question, and you know, uh, anyone who is maybe lawyers or many times people who are in the legal profession, it can be one that what you initially thought it was going to be isn't really what it tied out to turn out to be. And I went to law school, and it's been a great experience. I mean, overall, as far as an overall learning experience, but one of the fundamental things that I think happened to me until I understood how to really be true to myself and learn about who I am and how I tick, it was definitely something that I wasn't in alignment with. So I
Mm,
spent a lot of time um, really not performing at the highest level I feel I could. And I was always one foot in, one foot out, constantly looking for something that I thought would be more in alignment with who I was as a person. So, um, you know, I got licensed in 1998, and started working in the industry in 1996. So, the point is that was one where I realized that if I wasn't operating at my highest and best self, I have to change. So I had to go through a lot of different uh, scenarios in business to really find my own kind of true voice. And I know how difficult that is. And I know so many people who are primarily service based professionals. And I always say, particularly like left brain oriented or highly analytical folks, the typical overachiever types, where we do things and we just trudge on through despite being unhappy, despite
mm.
being, really dissatisfied with where we are. And it's not living to your full potential, right?
Right.
So that is a big thing that resonates with me personally. That if I can guide people through that process to eliminate, like I said, their overwhelm, their frustration, and their anxiety associated with that, and provide them, with a clear pathway to learn from my mistakes and be able to objectively give them feedback. Because oftentimes when I talk to folks, I'll put them back in alignment with their current career so they can recontextualize, right, where they are in their career, and redefine their purpose, or be able to understand maybe what some of those objective factors are, or those external factors that are really having such a negative uh, impact or causing some of their internal strife, how to how to be able to resolve those issues, and it becomes again a scenario where it really helps them. So I went through that process. I paid, it was a very painful process, and despite the success is in my career, un until I understood kind of what was my highest and best use, I always struggled. So part of that had to do with me mentoring people, and I started coaching people back in 2018, purely in a referral business. And even prior to that, I had worked with my wife to build a network marketing business. And that was a tremendous learning experience for me because I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how to retool and reevaluate my uh, my mindset, understanding personal development, understanding the importance of sales marketing, recontextualizing sales and marketing, because a lot of people have a negative connotation to that. So all these experiences kind of culminated with me mentoring hundreds and hundreds of people through that process. And then 2018, I kind of brought it outside of the network marketing space, and then just started mentoring, oftentimes attorneys, engineers, folks who just felt stuck.
Mm.
And my perspective was very helpful for them, because again, many of these folks, and I'm sure your audience can relate to this, there is an element to all of us in life where you got to just suck it up and do it, which I totally get. But there's also times where if you're doing that work and you're truly not in alignment with what it is that you do best, you're unequivocally not living at your highest potential. So that's kind of what prompted me to take the leap and start doing it on
Well,
on a
I
daily
mean, good for
basis.
you because it's. I don't know if you've read a book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, but he talks about there's a zone of genius and there's a zone of competence, and most of us are sort of in the zone of competence. It's because I can do this and I'm good at it, and so that's where I stayed. But we miss out on that zone of genius, which is what you were talking about. Sort of, you're not living up to your full potential, stepping into or even realizing what that might be for different people. And so I think for a lot of us, we spend our time in this zone of competence because we can do it, we're good at it, and we just stay stuck there. And we don't ever really consider what that zone of genius might be. How could we expand and live to our full potential?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us just tell stories about
Mm.
what the outcomes may be, without a really true and understanding kind of what that real journey is about. And quite frankly, in my opinion, the most valuable asset a person could invest in when they are truly evaluating the possibility of change is to speak to somebody who's already done it.
Yeah.
Because you can read all the books you want, you can take all the courses you want, but they're always going to be uh, really governed by your own individual experience, and you're gonna hit a person's just gonna hit a threshold. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, and there's some people who are breakouts who may be able to rise above that. But for the most part, and from the thousands of conversations I've had with people through the years, I find no matter who I'm talking to, from what part of the world, what their overall profession is, many folks are looking to do very similar things. They want to do something that they feel that is positive for them. They feel that they're making a difference to doing, to someone else's life in a positive way. They have more control of their time, and they have more control of their financial destiny.
Mm.
And so these are like universal themes that I think do require a shift in mindset, particularly when it relates to things that you talked about. Because if you're continue to operate in the pure competency level, yeah, you're really never just pushing yourself to what your true potential could be, and that's where the magic happens. And I often tell folks too is that's that journey itself is still going to have its fair set of challenges. Once again, such an important reason to have someone whom you could talk to, have check-ins, have, you know, um, in the corporate world, we talk about key performance indicators. You know, what are those external factors or those objective factors that can measure a person's success? And I often work with people to create unique key KPIs for them that we can use and to chart their progress, because that's one of the things too. I think people just lose perspective on. They're not able to evaluate their progress because it may not be what they have objectified as being the ultimate goal, and then anything beyond that is like a failure in their mind. And I'm like, no, it's a process. And then having them and really walking them off the ledge oftentimes and once they understand how many steps there are to make that transition. A lot of people will retreat to what's familiar. So it's like, okay, you got to keep it in context and move forward. And that's where I think coaches just are such an integral part. I know in my personal experience, they've been hugely positively influential, which prompted me to want to do it to help others as well.
Yeah, you're so right. It's so incredibly helpful, and it just makes everything so much easier if you've got somebody that you can talk to and bounce ideas off and share what's going on, because we get so lost in our own day-to-day stuff. Very often when I'm talking to someone, if I do a mastermind group where we meet twice a month. And sometimes a participant will come and she'll say, well, I don't really have anything, nothing's really happened over the past couple of weeks. And then I just ask a couple of questions, and then you find, well, actually a lot happened over the last couple of weeks. And they're surprised by that because they just didn't really see it. They hadn't taken the time or had the idea to reflect on it. And then, we have something to work with, but we get so lost in our own stuff that we don't recognize these things. Is what's so helpful to have someone you can talk to who can see these things for you.
Yeah, I think it's not only that, but also then set tasks. So what I do is when I work with folks is I check in. We have weekly sessions, like they're half hours, and then there's always a task list that follows, right? And then so that way there's specific action steps that have to be taken, right? So for example, if a person is coming, if a person's been an employee for a long time and they have an idea that they want to say open up. I work with a lot of guys in like the martial arts space, for example, because I'm a jujitsu practitioner for many years. So I wind up, because I've been in that space for a long time, in my collective experience, people will gravitate to me to ask questions. So oftentimes they may have been employees, for a long time, and we'll sit down, we'll go through, and I usually will ask them primarily some business fundamental questions to see where their baselines are. And oftentimes, they're really not familiar with some of the basics of, just say, bookkeeping or accounting. I mean, I have an accounting degree, right? So and I worked as an accountant. So, between my legal background, my accounting background, and then my business ownership and entrepreneurial background, I can be able to say, okay, look, so and so, these are some of the fundamental things I want you to work on first, so you can understand, how to view what your goals are going to be as you evolve through your business. Because I always tell them, like, the idea is one thing, but if you don't understand really what that idea means as far as implemental steps, right, that have to be followed, you're going to have a whole low likelihood of actually being able to move forward effectively. Cash flow, understanding cash flow. We were talking before we came online. I mean, cash flow is going to always be a concern for the overall majority of us unless we have done a really great job to be able to, say, get into a new business without worrying about the initial cash flow. And so these are all things that when I sit and I talk to folks, it helps them get more clarity on, how they want to move forward. And then also identifying what their individual unique value propositions is going to be, because I often tell them this as well, that, you may have a general idea about what you want to do, but it has to be really narrowed down very specifically and niche down. And that requires work, because if you don't have someone to be able to help you through that process, um, you may not really, you may be setting yourself up for disappointment as far as pulling yourself out there as an individual person who's providing something unique to the marketplace. So these are all things that, again, kind of going back to what I said, that's why it's so imperative to invest in yourself, to hire a coach, uh, to just mitigate those risks, and then also elevate your knowledge base and have someone who can objectively look at what a person's doing and provide them with the feedback that's necessary, and then also the tasks to move them forward so they can become far more educated about how they want to conduct themselves in their business.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a very interesting thing. I don't take it lightly, and I enjoy it thoroughly. Um, but it's one that, there's a lot of dynamics, as when you want to do something on your own, and
Mm.
start something. So that's those are typically the things that I work through and work with people, and then of course there's always the mindset issues that come through, because most people aren't delving into uh, the personal development side of things. So, how they understand their ego, how they understand, like I said, I work with people with respect to their uh, dialogue with money, whether, and understanding how to develop a more prosperity consciousness. Most of us, are growing up in scenarios where money represents stress,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to a vehicle or a tool to thrive. So
Mm.
these are all things that get unraveled as they have the benefit of someone whom they can trust, talk to, and will provide them with feedback.
Yeah. And you have such a wonderful combination of skills and experience that make you really the ideal business coach. You've got the legal experience, you've got the accounting experience, you've got the business experience. Really, the whole package.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and without being, yeah, I do. I mean, I really do. I don't say that like flippantly or in
No,
any
no. I mean, you
conservative
really
way, but
do, just from your
it
experience.
really is.
Mm.
Yeah, I always tell folks, like, I have like the grit of an entrepreneur, the analytical ability of an attorney, right? The ability to understand business as a business owner, understanding, like I said, the dynamics of sales and marketing, which is so critical. And that's one of the big components too that
Yeah.
a lot of people struggle with, is recognizing, and I tell them all the time that, whatever it is that you're offering, you can have the greatest product or service in the world. But if you don't understand that, what's of equal importance is understanding how to market it and sell it, or bring people on
Yeah.
who will help you to market and sell it, your likelihood of really getting off the ground is going to be very low.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
just the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's the reality of it. So, those are all things. Again, I mean, they're heavy concepts, but I'm very optimistic in speaking to folks. I mean, I always want to empower people and recognize that it's just a process. And once you understand the process, understand the context of how it's all going to play out, and then, like I said, keeping them accountable based upon,
Mm.
task lists. And then we have like 90-day check-in, like, well, we have weekly check-ins, but then 90-day reassessments to
Mm.
see where they've taken it, right? So it's based on like kind of business quarterly benchmarks.
Yeah.
And and it works really, really well. And if a person's committed to the process and do the work, then they're going to really advance the ball to
Yeah.
to to uh, whether it be starting their business or, you know, in a scenario where I've worked with people too in career transitions where like some high level professionals who may have been let go of their job because of whatever reason. That is a huge emotional
Mhm.
journey that
Yes.
they have to go on to detach from the negative ideas and ideology that they associate with losing a job or being let go, and and attaching all of their identity to that particular role.
Mm.
So in that sense, I work with a lot of folks and have in the past where I'm able to get them kind of out of their own way relative to the negative self-talk, where many people who get let go or facing that kind of career transition, I mean, the level of the imposter syndrome just elevates to such high levels
Yeah.
because they feel because they got let go, they don't want to kind of put themselves out there as a quote unquote authority. And
Yeah.
they'll tell themselves, well, I just got let go. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a journey. So like this is just that's just one of the stops. I mean, if you look at the statistics, you know, the average person's going to have 12 to 15 type of just job transitional changes through their career. If you can contextualize that and then just get back into the game quickly as possible to become someone who is engaging as an expert in your particular industry, say on LinkedIn. I mean, primarily it's LinkedIn. I mean, not necessarily the other social media platforms. Uh, but that I found as far as a lot of the guys that I work with or people I work with, but that is a big step for them, and they need someone who's guiding them through that process, cheering them on, getting them to, uh, to believe in themselves and
Yeah.
get beyond their, the negative self talk associated with getting let go, which is no fun. I mean, I've never been fired specifically, but I have been in job transitions from my own doing that led me to have to reinvent myself
Mm.
countless times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
have a wealth of knowledge, you have a wealth of experience, and I can tell that this is your zone of genius. This is your passion, that you love to help people succeed. And so, would you tell people again how they can get in touch with you? And you said you have a 25, sort of 30-minute session with people to
Yeah.
see if you're a good fit.
Yes. So, number one, thanks again for having me, Linda. I appreciate it. So, anyone who wants to reach out to me, they can just shoot me an email at mike@mikecoluzzi.com. That's MIKE at MIKECOLUZZI.com. And just tell me that, that they heard me on your podcast, and we'll set up a time. I'll send them a Calendly link. They can set up the time that's convenient for them. And we do a Zoom call just like this, and we talk and we see where they're at and see where they are and how I may be able to assist them. And I go through the process to see, again, if they're ready to move forward in a way that will really provide them with the outcome that they're seeking.
Yeah. And I encourage people to go to your website too, mikecoluzzi.com. You've got a lot of information on there. And what I love
Yeah,
to emphasize on there is how you keep it simple. You know, you make
you
it
have to.
as simple as possible for people.
And I will say, I mean, I thank you. I'm actually updating my website right now. I've been working with my web designer. We have some new things that are going to be coming out. It's going to be a whole new look and feel, and I'm going to have some really cool free content on there, actually, which is going to be really really great. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm hoping that's going to be fingers crossed, ready to go live over the next week or so. So
Oh, excellent.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But again, thank you so much. And yeah, I encourage people. There's never any what you see is what you get with me. We'll talk. I'll see if I can help you. Be very direct and help them. And that's the goal, is to help people move forward. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your patience with me this morning as we
Oh,
attempted
no worries. No
it's
worries. No
going. And
worries.
I'm so happy I got to speak to you today. So thank you for your time, Mike. I really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
being. Thanks for
And,
having me.
reach out to Mike if any of this resonates, and just have a conversation with him. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
All right.
we'll wrap it up there. And thank you so much, Mike.
All right. Ciao. All right. Bye bye.